What if I told you that according to Edgar Cayce, every soul, yours, mine, everyone you've ever known, must face 7 unbreakable spiritual laws the very moment we cross into the afterlife? These aren't laws written in books or decrees made by governments. They are woven into the very fabric of the universe. They are the laws of the soul. And Cayce, known as the sleeping prophet, revealed that no one escapes them. Not kings, not saints, not ordinary people like you and me. Think about that for a moment. Death isn't chaos. It isn't random. According to Cayce's visions, it is an orderly passage guided by 7 invisible laws. Just as gravity keeps our bodies on earth, these spiritual laws guide our souls when the body is laid down for the last time. And here is the astonishing part. Cayce warned that knowing these laws while you re-alive can completely transform the way you live, the way you love, and even the way you prepare for your own soul's journey. He said the afterlife is not something to fear. It is a continuation, a school of the spirit where we graduate into higher truth. So in this video, we're going to walk together through the 7 spiritual laws every soul must face after death. Some of them are comforting, like being drawn back to those you love. Others are sobering, like the law of accountability, where every hidden thought and action rises to meet you. And the final law, it is the greatest, the one that Cayce said every soul is ultimately destined to fulfill. But before we dive in, let me pause and invite you to support this channel. If you're fascinated by Cayce's visions, the mysteries of the afterlife, and the secret spiritual truths hidden in plain sight, then make sure to subscribe, tap the bell icon, and leave a quick like on this video. It helps more seekers like you discover this content, and it allows us to keep bringing Cayce's revelations to light. Now, and take a deep breath. Imagine for just a moment that your soul is free from the body. You are weightless, timeless, fully awake. In that very instant, you are already facing the first of these laws, the first step in the soul's journey beyond the veil. Let us begin. The very first law every soul encounters, according to Edgar Cayce, is what I call the law of recognition. Imagine the moment after death. The body is gone, the senses of the flesh are silenced, but your awareness is sharper than it has ever been. The first thing that happens is not a meeting with angels or guides. It is the recognition of your own self. Cayce described it like looking into a mirror that cannot lie. Everything you are, your thoughts, your intentions, your secret motivations, rise up before you, clear and undeniable. This is not judgment in the way we usually think of it. It is not an external God pointing a finger at you. Instead, it is your own soul, seeing itself in the pure light of truth. Cayce often said, "Mind is the builder." And here, in this law, you finally recognize everything your mind has built. The kindness you showed, the love you gave, the prayers you whispered, they shine like jewels around you. But the anger you held, the lies you told, the fears you clung to, those too are present like shadows that cannot be hidden. This recognition is unavoidable. It's immediate, and it can be overwhelming. Some souls rejoice in it, filled with awe at the beauty of what they've become. Others struggle, realizing that the illusions they carried in life cannot follow them here. Cayce explained that this is why the first hour, the first moments after death are so important. The soul is awakening to itself, stripped bare of masks. But here's the deeper truth. This law is not meant to punish. It is meant to awaken. By recognizing yourself as you truly are, you are given the gift of understanding where your soul stands in its eternal journey. It acts as if the universe is saying, "Here is the truth of what you've been made. Now what will you do with it?" And Cayce insisted, this is why life on earth matters so deeply, because every thought, every act of compassion or cruelty will be recognized, not by others but by yourself. He urged us to remember daily that our inner life is creating the world our soul will awaken to after death. The law of recognition is humbling, yes, but also empowering. It shows us that nothing is wasted. Every smile, every prayer, every lesson learned becomes part of the soul's eternal record. And when you step into the afterlife, you can no longer run from it. You must recognize yourself fully in the light of spirit. This is the doorway. And once the soul has passed through this recognition, another law awaits, one that pulls us not into ourselves, but toward others. It is the law that ensures love is never truly broken. and bonds never truly lost. After the soul passes through the law of recognition, after facing the truth of itself, it is immediately drawn by another force, one Cayce described again and again in his readings, the pull of love. This is what I call the law of attraction to loved ones. Cayce said that love is not destroyed by death. Instead, it becomes the very magnet that guides the soul across the threshold. The moment recognition is complete, the next awareness that dawns is the pull toward those you were closest to in life. This is why so many near-death experiences describe being greeted by a mother, a father, a child, or a dear friend who passed on before. Cayce explained that this is not imagination or wishful thinking. It is a natural spiritual law. Just as gravity pulls objects toward the earth, love pulls souls toward each other. And here's the fascinating part. Cayce revealed that the bonds of love stretch across lifetimes. The person who appears to you may not always be the one you just lost in this life. Sometimes it may be a soul you shared deep ties with in another incarnation, a companion, a mentor, a lover from ages past. Recognition at this stage isn't just about this lifetime. It's about the tapestry of many lives. Imagine the comfort of that moment. You awaken into a strange, luminous reality. Your earthly life has slipped away, and suddenly you see familiar faces reaching for you. They do not come in judgment. They come in love. They come to ease the shock of transition. They come to remind you that you are not alone. Cayce emphasized that this is also where souls find healing from grief. If you died carrying sorrow, regret, or fear, the presence of loved ones helps dissolve it. Their energy reassures you that death is not an ending, only a passage. This reunion becomes a bridge between the familiar and the divine, giving the soul courage to continue further into the afterlife. But here is something even more mysterious. Cayce noted that some souls are greeted not by family or friends, but by symbolic figures. A stranger clothed in light, a teacher who feels known yet unfamiliar. In these cases, he explained, the greeter is still a loved one, just in a deeper sense. They may represent your soul group, those eternal companions who incarnate with you again and again, even if you did not know them in this particular lifetime. The law of attraction to loved ones shows us that death is not loneliness. The bonds of love are eternal, and they ensure that the moment of passing is softened by reunion. This, Cayce said, is one of the greatest gifts the Creator has built into the spiritual design of existence, that no soul ever crosses the threshold in isolation. And once that reunion is complete, the soul is ready for the next great unveiling, the encounter with higher guides and beings of light who step in after loved ones to show the deeper path forward. Once the soul has been embraced by loved ones and reassured of its eternal connections, another law takes over, one that Cayce described with great reverence. He called it the moment when the soul is entrusted to guides of light, beings who exist at a higher vibration than the departed family or friends. This is the law of guidance by higher beings. According to Cayce, the universe has an order. Love welcomes the soul, but guidance directs it. The soul's journey does not end with reunion. It must now be shown the way forward, into realms that are unfamiliar to the human mind. This is where spiritual guides appear. Who are these guides? Cayce explained that some are souls who have completed the earthly cycle and no longer need to reincarnate. Others are angelic presences, messengers of the divine who act as custodians for those making the crossing. Their role is simple yet profound, to ensure no soul becomes lost. Imagine it. You have seen loved ones, you feel their warmth, but soon a figure appears who radiates something even more profound, an authority not of this world. These guides may appear clothed in dazzling light, or they may come in humble form, like a teacher or elder. Cayce insisted that the form doesn't matter. What matters is the unmistakable sense of peace and direction they bring. They are not there to judge you. That moment comes later, under another law. Instead, their presence is like a hand extended in the dark, guiding you gently toward the next stage. Cayce described this as a passage through realms, moving from the earthly vibrations still clinging to your being, toward dimensions where the soul reviews its choices and contemplates its destiny. What makes this so striking is Cayce's insistence that no soul crosses entirely alone. Loved ones gather you in, but higher beings take you beyond. They are like bridge builders between the familiar love of family and the higher wisdom of the spiritual world. Without them, the soul could wander, confused by lingering attachments or drawn back to earthly desires. Cayce also noted that these guides appear differently, depending on the soul's readiness. For one who has lived a spiritually open life, the guides may shine with unmistakable brilliance. For one who lived in fear or materialism, the guides may appear more subtle, allowing the soul time to adjust. The law bends to the soul's state of mind, but it never abandons the traveler. This teaching carries an incredible reassurance. In the afterlife, you are never left adrift. Whether you recognize them instantly or only gradually, higher beings are appointed to guide you. Their purpose is to ensure you find the place where your soul can continue its eternal education. This, Cayce said, is why so many spiritual traditions describe angels at the gates, or guides who lead the way. They are not just myth or metaphor, they are expressions of this universal law. And through their guidance, the soul begins to glimpse the next great mystery, the life review, where one's earthly journey is seen in full clarity. If the law of guidance ensures the soul is never lost, then the next stage is what Cayce described as one of the most humbling and illuminating truths of the afterlife. The law of life review. In this phase, every soul is brought face to face with a story of its own existence, not as fragmented memories but as a living tapestry. Cayce revealed that nothing is hidden, nothing forgotten. The joys, the sorrows, the kindnesses, the moments of selfishness, all appear before the soul in perfect detail. But here's the remarkable part. This review is not about punishment, it is about understanding. Cayce said the soul relives not only its own choices, but also the ripple effects of those choices on others. If you spoke a harsh word in anger, you will feel how it wounded the other person. If you gave love even in a small gesture, you will feel the warmth it ignited in them. It is as though the soul steps into the perspective of every life it touched. Can you imagine it? Suddenly, you see yourself not through your own eyes, but through the eyes of every soul you encountered. Every smile you offered, every bitterness you carried, every sacrifice, every neglect. It all flows back to you, but without distortion. It is truth in its purest form. Cayce explained that this process is guided by divine compassion. Higher beings remain present, ensuring that the soul does not collapse under shame or pride, but learns. It is not God who accuses, it is the soul itself, awakened to its own reality. This is why Cayce called it a law. It cannot be avoided. Every soul must face it not as a sentence, but as a mirror. What is most astonishing is how this review awakens understanding. A soul may realize for the first time the depth of its impact on others. A moment of kindness once thought trivial may shine brighter than years of ambition. Conversely, actions once excused or minimized may reveal themselves as deep wounds inflicted on others. And yet, even here, Cayce reassured, the law is not cruelty. It is designed for growth. When the soul witnesses the whole of its earthly journey, it does so to prepare for what comes next, the chance to heal, to balance, and to choose differently in future incarnations. This is why Cayce often spoke of the afterlife as a continuation of schooling. Earth is the classroom, life is the test, and the review is the report card. But unlike school, where grades are imposed, here the soul grades itself in the light of truth. This law, Cayce said, transforms souls. Those who thought themselves great may see how small their deeds were. Those who considered themselves insignificant may discover how profoundly their love rippled outward. It is a law that reveals reality stripped of illusion. And when the soul has seen its life in full, another law begins to stir, the law of karma and balance, which determines how those lessons shape what comes next. After the soul has faced the profound clarity of the life review, Cayce said it cannot remain unchanged. The next stage is governed by what he described as the law of karma and balance. Many hear the word karma and think only of punishment, as though it were a cosmic whip lashing us for mistakes. But Cayce taught something very different. To him, karma was not retribution, it was simply balance. It was the soul's way of correcting disharmony, of setting right what had been set askew. Think of it like this. If you strike a note on a piano that clashes, the dissonance lingers until resolved. Karma is the universal law that demands the discord be brought back into harmony. It is not about revenge. It is about restoring balance in the great symphony of life. Cayce described how after the life review the soul recognizes where imbalance remains. Every harsh word, every selfish action, every neglected kindness leaves behind a thread of unfinished energy. These threads cannot be cut or ignored. They must be rewoven into harmony. But here is the mystery Cayce revealed. The soul itself participates in choosing how this balance will be restored. In other words, we are not helpless victims of karma. We are active partners in healing it. A soul might choose to return in another lifetime to face the very lessons it once avoided. Or it may experience a reversal of roles, becoming the one who suffers what it once inflicted, not as punishment, but as understanding. For example, a soul that abused power might incarnate in a position of weakness, learning compassion through struggle. A soul that neglected love might find itself desperately craving it in another life, only to discover its true source lies within. In this way, Cayce explained, karma is not a prison, it is a teacher. It guides us toward wholeness. And here's the most empowering truth. Karma is not only about mistakes. The law of balance works with goodness as well. Every act of love, kindness, and service creates positive ripples that return to the soul. Just as a cruel act binds us to disharmony, a loving act lifts us into grace. In fact, Cayce often reminded people that love is the greatest karma. It is the one energy that multiplies infinitely and always returns to bless the giver. The law of karma and balance is therefore a law of hope. It says, nothing is wasted. Every struggle, every lesson, every moment of darkness can be turned into light. The soul cannot escape its own actions, but neither can it lose the fruits of its goodness. This law also explains why reincarnation, in Cayce's view, is necessary. A single lifetime is rarely enough to balance all debts or express all the love a soul is capable of. Life after life, we are drawn into the dance of cause and effect, not as victims of fate, but as students of divine harmony. And so, once the soul has accepted its karmic lessons, another law begins to call, the law of choice. Because even in the face of karma, the soul still holds the most sacred power, the power of free will. Even as the soul acknowledges the pull of karma and the need for balance, Cayce reminded us of something extraordinary. We are never without choice. This is what he called the greatest gift God has given, free will. Cayce often emphasized that even in the afterlife, the soul is not a passive passenger on some preordained track. Instead, it is a co-creator of its own journey. The law of choice ensures that at every step, whether in this world or the next, the soul is asked, what will you do with what you now know? After the life review and karmic reckoning, the soul is presented with possibilities. Will it seek another incarnation to balance old debts? Will it rest in the spiritual realms to learn and serve in other ways? Will it choose to draw closer to God by devoting itself to higher service? Cayce said the decision is never forced. Free will allows the soul to shape its own growth. But free will does not erase responsibility. The choices we make are always influenced by the clarity we've gained. In life, our vision is limited. We act out of ignorance, fear, or selfishness. But in the afterlife Cayce described, the soul's perception is expanded. The consequences of its actions are no longer hidden. This deeper awareness means that free will becomes even more sacred, because now the soul chooses with its eyes open. Cayce gave an image that captures this perfectly. He compared the soulless choices to a traveler standing at a crossroads. Each path leads to growth, but each comes with its own lessons and struggles. The choice of which way to go rests entirely with the traveler. Yet no path can avoid the soul's ultimate destiny, union with the divine. What makes the law of choice so powerful is that it reminds us, even karma is not a chain that binds us against our will. Karma is simply the stage, but free will is the actor. We may decide to balance our debts through love, service, and growth in this lifetime, or if we resist, we may delay and face the lesson again later. The choice is always ours. Cayce often warned that this law is at work here and now, not just after death. Every moment we live is a choice. Every word, every thought, every intention carries weight. By choosing love over fear, compassion over anger, forgiveness over bitterness, we align ourselves with the higher path of the soul. These small choices shape the great destiny that awaits us after death. And so, the law of choice is not only about freedom, it is about accountability. God does not force us into enlightenment. We must want it. We must choose it. That is why Cayce often repeated, "The mind is the builder. What we hold in mind, we choose. What we choose, we become." From here, another law begins to shine through, perhaps the most beautiful of them all. It is the law of grace and love, where the soul realizes that beyond karma, beyond choice, there is always the mercy of the divine waiting to lift us higher. At the summit of all the laws Cayce described lies the most radiant one, the law of grace and love. If karma is the law of balance and choice is the law of freedom, then grace is the law of divine compassion, which transcends them both. Cayce often said that no soul is ever lost, no matter how far it may have wandered from the light. The law of grace reminds us that while our deeds have consequences, God's love is always greater than our mistakes. Grace is the divine safety net woven beneath the soulless journey, a reminder that we are never abandoned even in our darkest hour. Cayce revealed that when the soul enters the higher realms, after its review and reckoning, it often encounters a profound realization. There is more mercy than it ever imagined. He described scenes where souls overwhelmed by guilt and regret were lifted up by beings of light, comforted with the assurance that love is eternal, and given the strength to try again. This doesn't mean karma disappears. Every action still carries its weight. But grace means that the soul is never trapped. No failure is final, no error permanent. Cayce explained that the universe is not a courtroom of endless punishments. It is a school. And just as a loving teacher encourages a struggling student, so does God encourage every soul to rise again. One of Cayce's most beautiful teachings is that grace is activated when we seek it with humility. When the soul turns sincerely toward the divine, saying in effect, "I wish to grow, I wish to love, I wish to serve," grace floods in like light through a window. The mistakes of the past do not vanish, but they lose their power to enslave. The soul feels new strength to face its lessons, to forgive itself and to keep moving forward. Cayce often urged people to embody grace in daily life, because the same law works here on earth. When we forgive others, we open a channel for divine forgiveness to flow into us. When we show mercy, mercy is shown to us. Love is the great transformer. It not only heals wounds, it lifts the soul into a higher vibration where karma itself becomes an opportunity, not a burden. And this is the secret Cayce wanted us to understand. The afterlife is not a realm of endless judgment. It is a realm of learning, mercy, and love. The 7 laws work together, guiding every soul, but above them all is the assurance that God's grace is infinite. The soul will stumble, yes, it will falter, it will repeat mistakes, but grace ensures that the destination is never in doubt. Every soul is destined to return home. So what do these laws mean for us now, as we walk through this life? Cayce's answer was simple. Live in harmony with them now. Remember karma as you choose your actions. Remember choice as you shape your destiny. And above all, remember grace, both to receive it and to extend it. For in the end, it is not fear that draws the soul home, but love. And it is love, Cayce said, that is the law above all laws.